welcome to the next episode of our brilliant podcast. We are the Retro Brothers. My name's Andy.
My name's Dave. How are you today?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Very well. I've been yet again playing around with this room and installing new hardware. I've got two 1 terabyte drives which I managed to get off very cheap Samsung Pro ones or Evo ones, whatever they're called.
Yeah, the Evo, the
Evos. Very good little devices. So I've got one in there at the moment. Windows took a clone of the hard drive and then the increase of the partition size. Thank you, Windows, for not screwing that one up. I've got the other one to put in yet, but I've got a lot of software to transfer over first, so I might just do some cloning of that later on. If you haven't got a cloning hard drive machine, get one, because they're brilliant. It really helps. So I've been swapping around some screens. I've got a new screen here, nice 4K, big screen, so I can watch you there. I can see the show notes there. I can see the browser, and I can see the recording down there.
How big did you go with your screen?
The 28-inch, purely because that is my screen there. I don't have to lean forward, so anything bigger than that, I'll be going like this.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's 32 but curved. It doesn't look 32. It's not bad, but God, you've seen some people where they've got the massive. You think, oh my God.
I think if you've got the distance, and I think if you've got sort of like a need for it, fair enough. I mean, I fired up a simulator on this the other day, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice. On 4K as well. I didn't know whether my card had pushed 4K on simulators, but it does quite well actually. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I've got a few bits and pieces to do, and then I'm going to finally get the hooks up behind for the green screen. For now, I'll have a green screen up, but and eventually I may be moving from this location if I get the conversion, the garage done. We'll see about that. So what have you been doing?
This week, finishing off some music stuff and tidying. Well, I've been tidying up actually. So I've been going through some old projects because I've got, and I'm sure everyone else is like this, and it's not fixed to just music. I've got projects that are just sat here, there, and everywhere, and it's just getting them all together, cataloguing them, and seeing what they are really. Some of them, and it's like, well, what's this? Listen to it and think, why did I abandon this? And it's something, you start a project for whatever reason, get distracted, start something else, and then that project, you don't touch it again for God knows how long, and there's no reason why. It's just
Then you get older, these things slowly pile up.
Yeah, and and again, it's going to archiving, it's where to store them, and with that, it's, when I started, I had a different archiving solution, so some of them are on there. Further on, I had another archiving solution. Some of them are on there. Then I've got some in the cloud, and it's like, right, where do I put them all? So I've been going through them all to try and get them all together, and then put them somewhere because, some of them are still stored locally, which is not good.
No, I'm guilty for that, and we know we're all guilty for storing things locally and not putting them in the cloud. And especially after, I pay, I do pay for I do contracted work as well. As work full time, and I pay through it the business. I don't know how much, about $30 a month, and it's a ridiculous amount of space to get, but it's just getting it all.
It's been able to afford to get it together and start uploading it.
It's getting it all together and making it sure it's all organised.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, innit?
Because even when I chuck it up, the stuff that I've got in the cloud, God, it's just looks like my local hard drive. It's just jumped up there at the moment.
Exactly.
So it needs sorting. But
the beauty of it is, if you use Google Drive or some of the others that are quite intelligent, you can type in what you're looking for, and it does kind of find it. Whereas on the hard drive, all right, you can Windows indexing is supposed to help, but
slows it down. But there you go.
Slows it down. So we've got a few topics today. We're going to briefly talk about E3. Very unimpressed by that. I'm going to have a quick chat about home computers like the Amiga, Atari ST, C64s, the Spectrums, VIC-20s, you know, and we're going to get back to that. You're going to talk about the mobile gaming industry at the moment because we're going to talk about ultimately where is, you know, we've talked about where things were going, and we're just going to briefly talk about what where the game industry is at the moment, and you know, and then finally Windows 11 vaporware. Is it vaporware? We don't know. We're going to talk about that as well.
Or is it real, or is it Google Chrome in disguise? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking OS X, to be honest with you. Someone's downloaded a dodgy copy and then put it out on as Windows. So, we've got plenty to talk about. So, the first thing I just want to very briefly go over, because there's not much there, E3. I mean, what can you say about that? So PlayStation was absent. I don't know what they're doing there, whether they're trying to say that they just don't have a ecosystem going at the moment and they're not doing too well, but even though you can't get hold of them, so people are buying them. Lots about Halo being free for multiplayer. That's not a bad idea to keep the numbers up. If you don't want to play the story, because quite frankly, the Halo stories I find quite boring. And then obviously Nintendo with their platform, they're talking about a few bits and pieces, but again, nothing really exciting to really look at and talk about. PC gaming seems to have got off sort of a bit of a back burner, as it always does, because Microsoft chuck a lot of money at it. What do you think about Sony not really being part of this? Do you think that this was a strategic, or is this not relevant to them?
Think
it's a Western thing.
Don't they hold their own now?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. It's very possible that they do, but E3 is kind of like one of the biggest places that everyone talk about. I mean, this is why we're talking about it, because it is a big event normally.
But then again, there weren't a lot there anyway. I mean, you look at the games that they announced. Fairly did some decent ones, but nothing earth-shattering. You know, you've got the Legends of Zelda, Breath of Wild 2 game. Obviously, there's Forza Horizon, the new Forza Horizon. I can't think of.
Forza looks meh.
Yeah, it doesn't look any different to.
The cars look really shiny, and don't get me wrong, landscapes look quite good. But then you should be able to push that these days. You expect that, but it didn't look great. I mean, you know, I'm not a massive Forza fan anyway, but you know, next gen consoles and.
I'm not sure about next gen because when you're playing the game, you're not studying the realism. Yeah, I went round to somebody's house. I went to see somebody in just got the PS5, and they had, I can't remember which shoot 'em up game it was now. That were it were obviously a release title, and I says, "What do you think to the graphics?" And he went, "Don't know, I noticed," but I could see it because I'm not playing it.
Yeah, you become a little bit more critical when you're watching it, don't you?
But the thing is, you don't buy a next gen console for other people to notice. Surely it should be about the gameplay. I just don't think it's there. I just think they didn't need to. I don't think they pushed last generation. To me, it's just a money making next generation. Let's bring it out, and then developers. Developers same, to be honest. I think it's just an excuse for them to be a bit more lazy and chuck a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you think about it, you've got a console with better hardware, so you can just up the texture resolution of your textures. You can make slightly bigger worlds because the system can handle it and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you could take your existing title, give it a different story or different, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know. If the environments are completely different, you aren't just upgrading it and then bringing it out as like, I don't know, Metro Redo or something like that, then yeah, I get it. You know, you've spent some time on it because these things aren't easy. But the amount of developers and graphics artists and all that, things do take time. But it does.
But to me, it's not enough. It's just not enough.
Laziness.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that. So yeah, there was a Mario game. I saw some footage yesterday, and it looked like something on a really old Nintendo console, and it's some sort of touch thing where Mario jumps around. You have to avoid things like poo and things. It's like, wow, okay. Yeah. So E3, bit boring for me. Not really much going on there. Maybe it's just that just this year it has. I mean, let's face it, it has affected development and that sort of thing. But really, if anybody's going to be able to just continue as normal, you would have thought that game industry should be able to work together from home.
The
But
other,
a creative
yeah,
environment is always good, I guess.
yeah, but yeah, there's no excuse. You should still be able to work from home. I mean, come on, I'm gonna go to a lot of 8-bit home programmers when they're sat at home doing games on their own, and I know I know a lot of developer or games who are going to go, yeah, I know we've got teams of people. Yeah, I know you've got teams of people, but you should be able to collaborate a little bit more. But
Tools are out there.
the only thing I noticed with E3 is indie games pushed more this time round. Now I don't know if that's because a lot of the AAA games and studios didn't have anything to tell us, and so indie games were pushed more. But it's nice to see that they are getting a bit more exposure and on things like E3.
Definitely. So there we go. E3 for me anyway. I just want to quickly talk about. I was thinking about this the other day, and in fact, it was because I had my Raspberry Pi 400 out. I was playing around with it, just sort of getting a feel for it again and everything else. And I was thinking, this is never going to come again. I remember, and to a degree, I understand it, but I remember obviously we had choice back in our years. You could get an IBM compatible PC, so you could get the standard PC. Then you had like the Ataris and your Commodores and all the rest of it, and even some of the more exotic ones out there. And they had their own ecosystem, own operating system. So you obviously had to get a popular one if you wanted to make sure you got the latest titles. But you had choice, and it was fun to have that machine. And it's never going to happen again. So really, the equivalents of those are your Xboxes and your PlayStations. Obviously, they have their own ecosystems. Mac OS X, they have their own hardware and their own ecosystem as well. So, but you're not really seeing these like sort of nice home PCs selling it. I know there's little projects and we talk about it, but you don't really get that many these days coming out. And if they do, they're just a hobbyist thing. And you look at the numbers that Commodore and Atari were able to push out back in the 80s with their home computers. You think anyone will ever be able to turn around and say, we're going to do a home computer and we're going to have all these titles coming to the computer? It's not a console, it's a full computer, but you'll get access to titles as well. Maybe Steam, I don't know, something where you can instantly get access to it. Possibly not their own hardware, because let's face it, these days no one really wants to get into that unless you've got billions like Apple. Would you like that to return? Would you like to be able to get access to a machine that might be a gaming, but then you can do other things as well? Or do you think that day is over and it's just we need to forget it?
No, because there's still I think there's a vibrant scene, but I don't think it's vibrant for not many people that was obviously new, that weren't around in those times. Is there anything new coming on that's like that? I suppose you could almost argue a PS5 is its own environment, but it's a console.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There are consoles out there, their own ecosystems and their own operating systems, and to a degree, I know the hardware's pretty standard, but they obviously put it together in a certain way.
But if we're talking computers, all-in-one systems environment, no, there's not. It is very much Mac PC orientated. I mean, these obviously we've talked about the Spectrum Next, the X16 Commander that's coming, and then obviously you've got which you keep forgetting about. Well, I still don't know what it is. The Mega 65, which looks like a Commodore, which is interesting. So this is interesting actually. Maybe we'll do something on this, because I'm not sure what the Mega 65 is. Apart from it just looks like the Commodore 65 that was supposed to be. but I don't know what it is. But yet the Commander X16 seems to also be what that should have been. So it's going to be, which one comes first, which one's
You're
going
going
to
to
be
get
the
an
best.
overlap, yeah.
So there's
But
that
these are
one.
niche, though, aren't they? These are
Yeah,
niche.
and there's them.
You might get
And obviously there's Raspberry.
5,000 sold.
Yeah, and there's Raspberry Pi, but
Yeah, I mean Raspberry Pi. I mean, I don't know the figures, but we're
yeah, and that's
talking
not.
we're talking a lot that they've sold.
Yeah, but that's an
But
open
still,
architecture system, so it's not. Yes, it's got its own OS.
it's got its gaming scene. I think to sort of entice people into using that ecosystem as something that you'd put in your home. You're not, unless you've got a proper gaming sort of platform where people have
No,
signed
it's
up to
retro. Again,
release.
for that they're just putting. Is it Emulac? It's retro Pi in it. So again, I think that's where that is for gaming. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, mobiles is just two platforms for that, iOS and Android. But they sort of like it was the phone first, and then as it became a computer, then obviously then you realise gaming was a thing. But I don't know. You're probably right. We'll never get anything like this again, and I just think it's a bit of a shame. It's quite sad, really. I just don't know how you'd really, unless you came out with a console which could match maybe the Nintendo in terms of the store and how many games you're going to get, but then it'd be a full computer as well. So you could do a bit of web. I mean, I know, obviously you've got you can do web browsing and other bits and pieces, but they're not really, consoles aren't really a good computer. If you've got it for that, then it's a bit of a mistake. I think there's got to be something out there that might be good, might be something that you can put together as long as you've got a gaming store. Really, I don't know whether we need it anymore. We've got so many mature platforms now. We've got the consoles. We've got PC marketplace. You've got your mobile. Do you need another one?
Probably not. I'm not sure you do because a PC gaming isn't just about Windows AAA PC gaming. Obviously, you've got Steam. It's more about it's the ecosystem rather than the hardware these days. So you look at.
Oh, you got choice on PC, haven't you? You can go EA route, you can go down Steam route, you can go itch.io if you really want to. Plenty of them out there.
Yeah, and they're all going streaming as well, aren't they? So you can almost play these on any device.
Well, this is the reason I think something like this isn't going to happen, because it would have to be a closed platform, which is kind of sort of defeats the ethos of having a computer but you can play games as well.
Yeah.
Everything's becoming subscription based. I mean, the Xbox, because it is now Xbox for PC and Xbox subscription on Xbox, obviously. They're announcing. I mean, kind of E3, but they are announcing massive games on release hitting the subscription, and this is where they all want to go. I mean, I suspect in future, Steam will charge you £15, £20 a month to get access to most games or a collection of games, and then still you can buy them. You can do that on Xbox still, obviously. You can buy them, and I think that's where you're right there. It's where they're all going to go. I think Google will go down the subscription rate where if not already actually, where you can subscribe to the store and get apps and games, but only the latest ones, all the popular ones. They all want you to. It's all about the service. It's all about subscription service platform, and it's just I mean, we don't own games now that we get Steam. You don't own the games or anything. You have to go to specific places like GOG, and even to an extent you don't with them these days. Yeah, maybe it's never going to happen again. We've lost that sort of time, and it's going to be, if you want it, you have to buy something niche, and maybe pay the price for it, because prices are going to be slightly higher.
I think, in a way, I think Nintendo, the only one who's still a closed. The Switch, is very, very popular.
It is.
They've done really well with that, because obviously for a while they were in trouble after the Nintendo 64. What do they do? Obviously, they decided the new. It's weird, really, because the new, obviously, Xbox, Microsoft had just brought the first Xbox out, PlayStation. Obviously, they were, were moving on to PS2. The likes of 3DO and that had gone by then, and it's like, and Sega with Dreamcast that were going. So I think Nintendo, like, what do we do next? Let's do something totally different. So obviously the Wii, Nintendo Wii, interactive. I mean, that were massive, but that sold it into people that ain't into gaming.
Yeah,
People were buying it, Wii
they
Fit,
identified a niche and they went
tennis,
straight into there.
and they made it fun. Wii U wasn't quite as popular, but the Switch. But again, it's people
Massive.
who they're not gamers as such. It's people who it's more for casual gaming and for the younger generation.
Well, you say that, but there are a lot of
factor.
older people who do play on the Switch.
Well, but the graphics, the capabilities are there, aren't they, on the system? But they're not trying to sell the next gen. It basically, it's for them, it's the games. The games.
Yeah, they've got a lot of independent developers releasing on there, and yeah, they've got some. Yeah, they've got the titles, Zelda and all that. So yeah, so I totally agree. It's they've found a niche yet again because they realised actually mobile gaming is a thing. So they've said, right, okay, you can play a game on your full screen, but then you can undock it and walk away,
Yeah.
and then chill in a cafe and carry on playing the same game. So it's like, okay, that's good. So they've always identified niches, and that's what Nintendo are good at. I think if they try to go for a full end top AAA FPS shoot 'em up platform, forget it. It's been Xbox are absolutely wiping the floor. Probably more in the West. I mean, it changes. You start moving towards the East, and the sort of the views of what platforms to play on and what they play on in terms of on what games they play on. It's completely different over there. And it always has been, really. It's been like that since God knows how long. They had some amazing consoles out in the East back in the day, where you just kind of struggle to get them over in the West. So, I mean, actually, moving on to sort of what we were talking about in terms of market share, I'm just showing up. Game industry at the moment. This is 2020 figures. Mobile is 25% of the marketplace at the moment. No, sorry, the growth is 25%. The actual market share is 49% of the game industry. That's how important. That's why I see games released on Steam, and you play them like, this feels like a mobile game. Even the graphics and the interface feels like a mobile game. And then suddenly they go, we are announcing it's going on mobile now. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But maybe you should make it look better on PCs. It's a bit anyway.
But it's the development into
console,
to develop.
Which I don't know how much they must spend on R&D these days. Probably a little bit less because they're not the hardware isn't quite high, totally different to just installing a PC and get it set up. 29%, but their growth is 21%. So the growth is lower than mobile. So mobile's quite high at the moment. PC, what do you reckon that is at the moment in 2020? I say at the moment, but what it was in 2020.
Yeah, that would just before the. I suppose those figures are just before the next gen as well, aren't they? Probably don't take that into account. I don't know. I think they've gone. I think they've reduced. To be honest, I mean it's reduced.
It is growing again as the PC marketplace, but obviously it's never going to be as high as the other two. It's a 6%, just over 6% growth, and the market share is 22%. So even though they talked about PC games dying and that's going to be no longer a thing, it's still up there. So it is a thing, and it's going to continue. You can't get hardware for love or money at the moment. I've put I'll put it in the show notes for the link, and I'll put it into the descriptions of both. I won't go into top games like FIFA and Animal Crossing and all those. When we talked about Nintendo, they do have a good good set of games where they just carry on sort of raking the money in. By units, Minecraft's up there on phone. You can get that pretty much any platform these days. So yeah, that's the thing. Mobile games important these days. And it will be for a long time. So I think if you're gonna get if you were ever going to get to a stage where someone's going to go, I'm going to turn this into a computer. It's probably going to be an Android iOS. Well, it won't be iOS. It'll probably be an Android-based computer where you've got access to the App Store, but you can use it as a computer, which you can kind of do now anyway. You can plug in, keyboards and stuff into a phone. But
you say, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it's strange how, although you say not iOS, but Apple, the latest Apple TV is being pitched as more of a gaming.
Yeah, there's always convergence wherever you go these days.
But again, it's an entertainment system, isn't it?
Yeah, Fire Stick, you can play games in theory, can't you?
But, yeah, exactly. And gaming's on there. Well, yeah, you can. Yeah. But it's interesting, and obviously, like you said, the mobile gaming. I mean, you look at the top three. So if you look at the top 10 mobile games, the top three, I would say are certainly not. So you got Pokemon Go, Donut County, number 2, and Anime, number 3. They're the games you would have found on Amigas, Atari STs. Yeah, it's them type of games. And, I think we were talking earlier, I think, the mobile gaming has probably taken over what was that platform. And yeah, you can get Call of Duty on there, and it is number 4, Call of Duty Mobile.
Number 5, Doom 1 and 2. I love that. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, exactly. But so, Legends of Runeterra, again, it's based on old, they are old format games. They're not, there's nothing groundbreaking.
Yeah, it's a card deck builder game in it, really. It's nothing new, really.
There's the racing games are always on there. Although I've noticed Forza was in the top 10, but it's not in there at all now. But you've got Grid Autosport number 10. But yeah, like you say, it was funny to see Doom in there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought actually PUBG would have been a little bit higher, but obviously that's just at the time. I guess it would have been quite high, but Doom, it's great. Think about it. That must have been, that must be one of the games out there that has probably been transferred to just about any platform you can think of. I mean, it came out for the PC, and then it went on to Jaguar, and then it went into other platforms. It ended up on the other consoles. I've even seen people put, I don't know how they've done it, they've managed to get Doom working on their fridge. And then oscilloscopes. I've seen people play Doom on oscilloscopes. I mean, that must be the one game that's managed to get just about on any platform you can think of. I can't think of one right now where they turn around and go, you just can't play it. I suppose Linux unofficially, but you can still play it that easily. Just download it in Steam and play it under wine. But I know some of them are unofficial, but yeah, it's one of the first FPS games, and it's still out there, and it's still making money. So who knows to ID? Brilliant.
They've done something, but yeah, it is weird. But yeah, so you look at that, and I see people, they sit there, they're playing games, and it's like, they're engrossed to the screen. Like, what you're playing now, and it's something that looks extremely like games like Populous and Civilization, and it's like
there's a lot of cloned games, where the clone's like a good, well-known formula for games.
Yeah, but it's nice to see strategy games on and people playing them as well, not just FPS racing sports games.
Yeah, not just clickers.
So it's different. But I think it's all about if you want to play, because people buy a console just for a game. Well, I just want FIFA, the latest FIFA game, so I'm going to buy an Xbox or a PS5. I just want the latest Call of Duty game, so again, I'm going to buy them. They don't do it for well, I don't think they do it just because the console. They're doing it more for these two games are not available. You know, I
Yeah,
need
yeah, and an
access to those
exclusive.
two
Make sure
games.
you buy that console if you want to play it. Now then, this is my prediction. Someone will one day, and I'm talking big. It's going to come out with sort of a Switch style console, but based on Android. So I think someone's going to announce one day, not in the too distant future, and go right. You can get a console. You can pick up where you're going to get controllers, headsets. You can all do that multiplayer, which you can do already on Android. But maybe your controller might be a tablet style, so you got the controls down there because people like a lot of touchy feely sort of style games. I honestly do think that maybe Google. I mean, I know Google are talking about, or I don't know whether they're still doing it or what, but planning on streaming. Streaming's obviously going to be a thing in the future, so you can play that on any platform. But I honestly do think someone's going to come out with a top end Android based console, and it'll be very switchy. You know, you could pick it up and transfer the game to your mobile. I mean, you can imagine how good that would be. Sit down, I can play a game on my 4K display, and the graphics look amazing because I've got a good GPU in this. And I can click pause, transfer to mobile, choose the mobile or tablet. Off I go. I can now sit in the back of the car as a kid and play my game, carry on playing PUBG or whatever. That is probably the future. And the platform's there. You've got games already. You've got a place to already develop. Development, the SDKs and everything are all nice and mature. So yeah, that's maybe the future. Convergence.
Yeah, it could be. It could be convergence. You're right. Just as a quickie though, I know we talked about mobile gaming, and it's obviously iOS. Well, there's two things. One thing yesterday I saw, nobody talks about Android anymore. So I have been to loads of 3 retail shops that I went to. Apple products, Apple accessories. On the other side, what do you think it said?
Mobile.
No, Samsung. So now
Oh.
people are basically going, it's either Apple or it's. But I looked at the accessories, one Samsung. Well, there was Samsung in there, but all the other stuff. So that people are all labeling, people just going, let's either Apple or Samsung and that. You know,
it's like there's basically the bipolar in terms of you've got an iPhone, and you've got a Samsung. If you got all else, you're not got a proper phone. Yeah, it is. I mean, Samsung done very well in doing PR for that. I mean, they started cloning iPhones a while back, didn't they? The look and feel, and then now they've managed to get out premium hardware and make them look good and get you to even pay premium prices. I don't want to go too much into that because
no, too premium. Although they do, they did the lower end ones are better. One in check before we leave this and move on to Windows 11. Just one thing that I sort of picked up from some news this week. We didn't say we were going to do news, but it's part of this. The competition watchdog are investigating Apple and Google's dominance in the mobile phone systems. Is anything going to happen from that?
No.
Probably not, no.
No, let's face it. If that was going to happen, Microsoft would have been broken up years ago. But it's just not going to happen.
No.
So, no.
Definitely not. Yeah. So there you go. So that's that were So they're investigating that. That were announced this week. So is anything going to come of it? Who cares? Probably not. Well, unless something comes out with a really brilliant ecosystem where all the apps are just going to work. But what else? What's it going to be?
I mean, in theory, Huawei have now come out with their own own operating system, which actually, when you dig into it, is actually Android 10. So all they've done is, obviously Android's open source, so they forked it, and now they're creating their own ecosystem on top of that.
They are.
There's no Android store, no Google store in there, or anything like that. It's exactly like Fire OS. It is Android, and they'll keep pulling source code from
Yeah.
Um,
But the developers are already there though, aren't they? So it
uh,
doesn't take much for people to publish on that OS.
no, it don't, and it's it's Android, so it's not hard to do. But
Yeah.
you know, so yes, there's a possibility. Maybe Android is a platform that people will start diversifying a little bit more. But then you've got this tablet don't quite work with that tablet, and
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a iOS tablet and I've got the Google stuff installed. Took me 3 downloads and then 3 installs. That's it. Just 'cause purely there were certain things I wanted, but it works and it's compatible. So before we continue down another rabbit hole, which is probably where we're going to go next, Windows 11. Um, yeah.
Well, 3 questions. Well, I suppose there's 2 questions out of this, isn't there? So firstly, Windows 11, Microsoft said Windows 10 was the last operating system, and they're basically now we're
Well,
going to be. And we've talked about this during the
we
week.
knew
We're just going
people
to be a
that
service.
we knew they'd lie about that.
So why Windows 11? Basically, why not just an offshoot? And I think it's because they've got very complicated with the feature pack naming conventions. Nobody gives a crap about that. To everyone, it's just Windows 10. Whereas every year, it's Apple are releasing a new version of their Mac OS and renaming it, even though it is the same OS.
Yeah.
You know, Android 11, Android 12. They've got rid of the sweets and cake stuff, but again, it's just stuff on top of what is already the same operating system. I think Microsoft went, do you know what, we need to do the same, because otherwise we're not seen to be doing anything apart from releasing updates that break things.
The thing is, Microsoft have been doing it for years. They've always tried to be trendy. They've always tried. I mean, sometimes the stuff they come out with are absolutely bang on. Their MP3 player was actually a decent platform and a decent piece of hardware, but it wasn't trendy.
They didn't know how to market it for
They
a
didn't know how to
start.
market it, and it's Microsoft. You can't. It's really was. I mean, when they started talking about, I mean, Xbox. Let's face it, that did really well. And that is that is trending as a platform, and it is quite popular. Well, very popular. But they've managed to really brand that and sort of kind of move that away from. It is Microsoft, but it's Xbox. They don't say Microsoft Xbox. They say
No,
Xbox.
it's just
a brand.
Xbox. It's just Xbox. But the guy that marketed, so the guy that were in charge of Xbox when it came out, and the guy that did all the marketing and sort of designed the first one, that he's not on Microsoft anymore. I can't remember. He got involved in another console, I think, but he was instrumental in breaking it away from being a Microsoft Windows blah blah, and the console, the first Xbox, it did work. It could have failed miserably.
Yeah,
But,
it could have done, and
I think Halo.
Halo saved that
Halo
platform.
sold that.
So yeah, I mean, okay, so they always struggle with sort of making things trendy. They are a corporation in a day, and their main business is businesses. So with that, I mean, they could have said Windows 10 and then given it a name, and then you kind of would have understood that, But I don't think it works with like Microsoft products. You've got all the different versions and all different names, and obviously now, we seem to like Office seems to be sort of merging in just as 365 subscriptions and all that, and obviously we talked about that before. So
yeah.
Going back to this Windows, so obviously let's go back to the beginning. This has been leaked, so there's some pictures out there, and there's also videos out there. So to a degree, you kind of like, well, this is kind of got to be real, but I've seen people who are very clever at masking Linux as Windows, and down to a point where you feel like that's what you're using. So it wouldn't take somebody that much to do that. But if you were booting it, if someone downloaded the ISO and booted it, you'd realise, you'd be quite quick at realising. Is it something that was just developing, and maybe they just decided not to really bother, but someone's managed to get hold of the ISO? Or is it just Microsoft just releasing it to the wild and going,
what do you think?
have at it? What do you think to this? Because, let's face it, that's what happens these days. People release things into the wild like a leak, and it's not really a leak. Um,
And it doesn't look that. Well, I'm saying it's not. I mean, why 11? Because yeah, when I look at it, there's more feature sets that they've released in feature packs than they certainly have in this. So, the takeaways from me is they've got rid of the live tiles completely. So the live tiles are gone.
well,
They've
their
made them,
telemetry must have clearly told them no one used it.
yeah, they've cleaned up the OS. So the main desktop is now Chrome stroke Mac OS.
Yeah.
That's very much evident. Although you can move them back to the left, and if you're a control freak and you need it to be on the left, everything on the left you
Well,
can actually move it back.
that's the problem, isn't it? Really, I mean, when you look at like where they're trying to go, Apple have got it right because when you went from Classic to Mac OS X, it was completely different. As
Yeah,
it's gone along, it's been consistent, but when they make a change, you either like it or you don't. But that is what you're getting. It's not a case of, you can switch this off, you can switch that off, and you can put it back to how it was. This has been Microsoft's problem for a very long time with the start menu. Like, we just going through the ecosystems, because if you look at Linux and all the different environments they've got, they started off completely different and realized that actually start style menu was probably the way to go because people are used to it. So that's what they did. But as things moved along, like if you look at GNOME or GNOME, if you want to pronounce it like that, you haven't got a start menu. It's very tablet, very mobile style, which actually I hated at the beginning and I love now. So if you look at the screenshot, and that's the undertitle of PC users are furious. You scroll right down. There's a bit where you've got like your apps, your list of apps,
yeah,
and that looks very Now the person's put in there. Well, that's very Mac like. Well, actually, it's very Linux like as well. Ubuntu's looks until they change it to GNOME. Looks very much like that. Gnomes will look like that for a very long time. That is sort of where everyone's going. But to go to the point of redesigning, making it look, I like that. I don't mind that. It's going to be different. It's going to be hard for some users, and that whole article is about Windows 11 users unhappy. And it might be clickbait.
yeah. It's that in it, but I think it's because basically they're styling it on iPad OS, so the widgets that basically, they started on Windows anyway, but so the widgets, they've got rid of the live tiles and said, you know what, well, you can have widgets instead, which did they had that in Vista, didn't they, originally?
They did, and
and
I'm sorry, I'm
Android have had widgets for years. So what? I don't know.
I mean, I'm just kind of like struggling with this to a degree because I'll tell you what the problem is, and this is what I sort of repeat myself from earlier. They've gone to the effort of redesigning, and it's going to alienate people. But what are you going to do? When Windows 8 came out, and there was a huge uproar for about 6 months, and then people started either downloaded a program which made it more Windowsy, start menu and all that, or just stuck with it, and people got over it after a while. And I know it was unpopular, but by the time 8.1 came out, actually it was a decent operating system.
Yeah.
But it's like they always backtrack. It's like, we'll backtrack. All our users are unhappy. Microsoft, you have got a huge market share. It doesn't matter what people think. You went from Windows 3 to Windows 95, and you went from 95 to 98, and then you did Vista, which obviously people didn't like, but that was a different story, different reasoning. Look at XP, how different that looks. Just get over it. Make the right design choices, stick to it, and stop allowing people to go back to classic version. Don't do it.
No.
Stick to it and say, look, if you don't like it, go and buy a Mac. If you don't like it, install Linux. How many people are going to do that? 0.5% of your users.
Yeah. I'm just wondering
I
though
still
if,
want to. I still want to be a gamer on the PC. You still want to be able to use Office. You still want to be able to use certain design software on PC. What are you gonna do?
yeah, I, yeah.
Suck it
I'm
up.
just I'm just wondering if Windows 11 is actually not these. You see, no, nobody's confirmed it now. That the June the 24th, they're doing an event where they're going to announce something.
And
I've just
again,
got
this
a
could
feel.
be.
I've just got a feeling, have people got it? It's got it's codenamed Windows 11, but is it really? Is it going to be Microsoft's ARM? Because obviously they
Did
did
we?
release Windows for ARM, so is it almost going to be their next?
Did we not see if we haven't we've done this in the past, haven't we? Where Windows has been leaked, and then someone said this is the name of the new Windows, and it's been wrong.
Yeah,
Because obviously project names change and the internal project names are different to what you actually market it.
and they're on the same Windows 11 because if you go into the settings and about, it just says Windows 11 build wherever. Well, I don't mean to say it's going to be called Windows 11.
Could be Windows 365 or something similar. You don't know, do you? Or
It's
just
more
just Windows.
yeah. See, the thing is with this, it is more. So when you from the OS from the ISO that people have downloaded, it does. So basically, you can't have a local account anymore. So you've got to have either a Microsoft account, which is a cloud account, or you've got to have a work account. So basically, it's cloud.
Oh my god. Oh.
So no
Yeah,
more
well,
local. So no more
we
local accounts.
they've been pushing this for a while on Windows 10,
Yeah,
and
but
and, and
having said that, if you want an Android device, you've got to have an Android account. If you want an Apple phone, you got to have an iOS account. If
not necessarily. I mean, let's face it. I can get an Android device and say I don't want to do that,
yeah,
but
pretty much going to be it's
you're going
pretty
to be
much
stuck with what you
useless.
got.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, and then it goes back to the subscription-based thing, doesn't it?
yeah.
Once you get you all logging on to an online account, then this can start adding features in
So
there and
yeah,
charging for
so
it.
to me, this is all about selling that. This is their cloud. It's cloud services, and I think this is more of getting more consumers to adopt cloud. I think, but I don't know. We can only guess, but June the 24th is the day. I think people have got it wrong. I don't think this is just right because they have put a Windows 10 end date of 2023 end of support. But that's just the latest version. That's not Windows 10 as a whole.
But if this is fake, this is a good fake.
Yeah,
This isn't like two screenshots being bounced around the internet, which can
no,
still cause the same sort of turmoil that's happening right now on the internet. This is big. We've got videos, we've got lots of screenshots.
no. We've got
And
people who have reviewed it. We've got somebody who's reviewed how does it play with games. So it's a proper OS, but
if it's
I
playing
don't know.
games, then I don't think it's going to be an ARM. It may well be a convergence with the ARM's code and the look and
Yeah,
feel of the ARM version, and they might have decided that that's where they want to go. Hey, do you know what though? If this is real, I don't have a problem with the look and feel of it. I think this is now more modern,
it's
and
clean.
it's nice and clean. I mean, one of the first things I do with Windows, where I'm looking at right now, is the taskbar goes to the top because that's what I'm used to. It goes to auto hide, turn off desktop icons.
Yeah,
It looks awful, and it's clean. It's uncluttered and it's clean. I don't ever use the menu to find an app
no, I don't.
or a program. I hit the Windows key, search for it, hit return, and I'm done. Because that's what I'm used to on GNOME. I hit the key, Windows key, because that's how it launches it still. Type in the name, boom, done. I have a dock for my favourite sort of program. So, like on the taskbar, I have pinned applications. That's it. I just click on it and I'm away I go. Other than that, I'll just type it in and launch it. So just don't let people move back. It's like do you know what it is? It's like the ribbon on Windows Office, Microsoft Office. Sorry.
I mean, the
That there's
start
that.
menu is there. They've called it something else, so that's all. It's in the middle, and it is called
Yeah.
something else, but it's just not a start. Yeah, and people are going to go, "Oh no, I want the start menu back. Otherwise, I'm not. I can't use it."
Well,
Really?
there'll be third party applications. I mean,
Yeah,
I used to use one on Windows 8, and it looked like 7. You can do it. You know, the shell program can be altered, and you can replace it. It is there. It's something you really don't want to do that much, but it is there, and you can change it. So yeah, yeah. I mean, just don't let if you. But I mean, the only thing I would say is don't have it where the control panel is completely replaced with that horrible GUI that they do for settings, where you have to go through about 16,000 layers just to get to the same setting you could do by one click or maybe two at the most. I didn't need to improve that. I haven't actually seen the screenshots of that.
yeah.
Um, this
To
when we
me,
talked about it, the whole compatibility crap, and they all sort of making it look and feel like the old one if you really need it. Let's get past it, but make it good.
yeah. But to me, it's like, I think they need to take a bold move, Microsoft, and
Yeah,
get rid of the legacy.
yeah.
And 11 should be, if they bring out 11, but it's still, oh no, but we'll still have all the legacy. It's like, they've not, what's the point? They might as well stuck with 10 and add a feature pack. To me, 11 should be doing an Apple almost, we're eradicating what they're going to do, even corporate, even businesses. What are they actually going to do? Well, hang on, no, you can't do that. I've got a Visual Basic 5 program sat here, so you can't. You've got to support it. No,
And
we
this is the
don't.
problem with Microsoft. I mean, they don't want to burn. They don't want to burn the bridges of
Well,
the
they're not going to
clients,
do
but
though. Who are they going to burn the bridges to?
um, well, exactly. You know, if you've got something that old or an old access program from like the
Yeah,
early noughties with loads of VBA code in it, do you know
to me,
what?
businesses need to stop scratching their
Yeah,
heads, which they've done for the last 10 years, going, "I will need to move to it, but we can't now." And so they've already decided they're not going to do because they've been given the time not to. So it's like, no, we won't move. We'll take this 10-year migration path to cloud. No, it ain't gonna. It's not
move
going to be
quicker.
there. Microsoft need to be bold and go, "Sorry, guys, cloud. You can stay on Windows 10 until 2023, but you move, or that's it."
Yeah. Um, I mean, we won't know. No one's going to know really
Yeah.
what this is.
I think June the
I like it.
24th
I
is
like it.
their net event. But if they come out with it's just a UI change and you know what, it still supports legacy, then I think they've missed a trick as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, there's a backlash there. Windows already a backlash. Every time there's a new Windows, there's always backlash. Every time, what you see is you slowly see people, especially on Twitch, obviously the massive gamers there. Slowly but surely, you see them going, "Oh, I'm not going to go straight to that one because it'll have problems." And then suddenly they're starting to use it. They go, "Well, I've got
Yeah,
to use it because if I want a game, I've got to
yeah,
use it because DirectX obviously dictates what version you use." And once you don't have that compatibility anymore, then you've got to move up. Windows 10, not really that keen on it, but it's got better over the years. It's not perfect, but this will be the same, no doubt. Just
yeah,
stick to your guns, Microsoft. If this is what you decided, stick to your guns. I like it, and I'm sure there'll be things on it I don't like, and I'm probably going to tear
yeah.
my hair out what's left of it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing they're saying, or which nobody knows, is that it's going to be a free upgrade for Windows 7 and 10 users, which it should be. It should be.
I don't think they should be upgrading 7 anymore now.
No, but I think you should be able to. If you've got a Windows 7 PC, you should be able to go to Windows 11 for nothing. It should be free for consumers.
I don't know. I mean, come on, who's Windows? If you're using
Well,
Windows 7,
yeah, but if you're on, okay, then so if you've got an Android 9 mobile phone, are you saying that Google are okay to charge you to go to Android 11?
I think they should continue security updates to a certain point and then say, sorry, guys.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more cost wise. Don't charge £100 for a Windows 11 license.
Oh,
If
I
I've got a
mean,
Windows 7 machine, let me upgrade for nothing.
I wouldn't actually. I'd say, really. I mean, Christ Almighty, it was on Windows 7. Yeah, it's corporate on Windows 7,
Well,
but
yeah, this
that's a completely different
but,
environment.
well,
We're
I
talking
don't
about
know.
consumers.
There's still people that I do have it.
Yeah, exactly. And there are people that still have it, and we left the company a while back, but still and ahhing about going to Windows 10, even though it's like, it's been out for so long. For corporates, different, but for consumers should have moved up by now. I would probably do a little charge on that, just purely because I think it's unfair, really. I don't know, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, but your own Windows 7 really
So
should be up.
Windows, yeah,
Should be
so
on eight.
Windows,
Eight,
Windows
and 10.
15% Windows 7 market share still.
It's like these people who should drag their heels on XP. For God's sake, let it go.
And that's what I mean. Get rid of the legacy. It's like, sorry guys, you move.
This is my point. But I know what you're saying. If it's free upgrade, they'll do it. But if you pay a few dollars just to push it up, then fine. I don't know. I don't have a problem with them charging for Windows 7 upgrades. It probably won't. They'll probably either say you can or you can't. You have to reinstall.
I think the consumers, it should be free because that's how they're going to get people to move.
Yeah,
it's just an update for a minute.
No, you'd like to think so. I wouldn't like to do a 7 to 11 though.
But you can do a clean, can't you?
Well, see, actually, if you think about it, this is the problem. If you're going from 10 to 11 and that works, great. If you're going from 7 to 11, that really screams of you've still got a load of crap in there that you really don't need anymore. This is what we're talking about, really, on this.
Well, I think though, unless it's not going to be, because it could. Well, I mean, the problem is with Windows is there's a lot of cheap, rubbish consumer laptops out there where the storage, because you could make it where it downloads 11 and does a clean install, but people have only got there's bloody laptops out there with only 32 gig of storage in, which is absolutely ridiculous. So that's never going to work.
No.
So they've got issues really. So it's like, I don't know. It's hard for them because there is more hardware out there that they have to try and support. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very. I'm very curious of what it's going to be when they announce it on the 24th.
I think it's going to be the usual thing. If this is legitimate, then fantastic. But let's progress as a corporation in terms of operating system that they've been developing for years.
Yeah,
let's get rid of all the legacy crap. Let's make 10 that one where you go. No, the leap from 10 to 11. This is the hardware you're going to need. We'll upgrade you for free if that's what you want to do. But this is where we're going to be at. There's certain applications now that just will not work because this is where we're going. 32-bit, get rid of it. Get rid of 32-bit. Yeah. No one needs 32-bit anymore. They've been dragging the heels for years on this whole 64-bit, 32-bit thing. Get rid of it. If you've got applications on 32-bit right now, then you really need to be looking at what you can do to get rid of that. If it's on a server, I get it, and you containerize it, bloody turn it into a VM, fine. And that's we talked about this before. This is where I think Windows are losing out because they're trying to upgrade, but then they're just still going, oh, but don't worry, you can still make changes and make it less consumer, and you can revert all your settings back to where it used to look like, and you can still use all the old applications to a degree. We've got a container for that. Yeah, no worries. Put it in a container and it'll feel like Windows 7 or Server 2000 and God knows what they're on these days because I just don't use them. But I potentially think this might be a bit fake. But if it is, it's a bloody good one.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very good.
Whether it's Windows, I don't know what it is, but it's going to be curious. When's June the 24th? No, it's 4 days. So from when we've shot this podcast, it's 4 days away. So
this will be going up end of today.
Maybe I think we should do a reaction video on the event.
Oh yeah, I think we should. I mean, maybe we go live when they go live. I don't know.
Could do. If it's 2 o'clock, not if it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, the way my dog's keeping me up at the moment, it might be a problem.
Maybe your dog could do a reaction.
yeah. So there you have it. I mean, I think it's probably potentially fake, but I just can't get around the fact that there's videos out there.
No, and people have reviewed it, and legitimate people, not just people who do fake videos. It is legitimate reviewers, so
Think
it's
I think if this were really something Windows were trying to protect, because it's not actually going to be really. Actually, I'm kind of like overwriting what I've just said there. But if Windows, this was a build that Windows were playing with, but this wasn't going to come out, or it wasn't planned. It was just something they're playing around with. I think pretty much all these websites, the big ones, would be saying, "Take it off now." They'll be sending
I think
easy
this is
enough
a
for
very,
them to do. So
I think this is a very early preview.
probably a very early
Well, you
preview
can
that's got
tell
leaks. Yeah.
you can tell it's very much unfinished, but there's a lot of stuff in there. But we'll soon see. 4 days, we'll see. Maybe we do a reaction video.
Yeah, We'll maybe cut like a sort of a cut down version of their announcements video, and we'll react
Yeah,
to it. I think, and we've talked about react videos and stuff, but we don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. But I think this actually would be a good
let's
react.
do one. Let's do one.
Might be a bit sweary.
Doesn't matter. No, well, it doesn't matter, does it? You know, if it is, it is. And sorry, kids, you won't be able to watch that one. I'm sure our audience isn't, under 11s or whatever.
I don't think there'll be many even interested in what we talk about at that age. Does it have a touch screen? No. Oh, no then.
Yeah.
Sorry, people who actually are that age and actually maybe listening to us, and yeah, not gonna happen. So with that, fingers crossed. Do it. I'm looking forward to this. Actually, I'm looking forward to this. If this is Windows 11 or Windows whatever.
Yeah. So we'll see. So we'll be back in 4 days then to let people know.
Yep, and we'll release the video then to our reaction to vaporware or not.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Goodbye from me.
And it's definitely a goodbye from me.